Heidi ho, heidi ho. So, message for today. Back to the parasites. So, the creditors, you sold yourself to the creditors. It has to do with fearing other men and not fearing Hashem. Ari Ma'aba, as I know it. So, fearing other men. Being greedy for gain. Following necromancy. So anyway, following that Gregorian calendar, Pope Gregory's calendar that was modified. So it was Julius Caesar's calendar, and I said it before. Render unto Caesar what's due Caesar. Well, the only thing that's due Caesar is his hot seat and Gehenom. So they give you bread and circuses, and because they give you bread and circuses, you follow all the shiny things, the sparkle and the explosions, the things that go boom, so you go, ah. So that's what the bankers give you. And they tell half-truths. They make false and misleading statements. They try to capture your souls with their documents, wanting you to dock your mind with them, which is your soul. Your ruach, your neshama, your nefesh, depending on what level you're at. So, they use trickery to get you to bow down to the idol of the state. So kind of like I can take a portion of land and say, this is your holy land, and you're actually ignorant enough that you'll believe it and not do any of your own research, seeking knowledge, wisdom, and discernment. And you're going to consider that the Holy Land because all the objects are there to claim it to be the Holy Land. But if I point you to a different direction and say that the Holy Land is actually somewhere else, you're so indoctrinated and so fearful that the bankers, you'll argue it. So to do aliyah, it's a spiritual thing, to ascend the mountain. It's not necessarily physical, because physical is evidence of the mark of the beast. 6 protons, 6 neutrons, 6 electrons. I've been saying this for years. Wanting to make a name for ourselves and declaring the land to be Elohim, God to us, that would be the reason for a temple to be destroyed. Because men want to worship the stones as if they believe this set of stones is more valuable than a grain of sand. Everything that Ari Ma'ava created has value and a purpose. And the bankers know that. So anyway, psychopaths and sociopaths. A sociopath can be saved. He can be saved. Or she. Whereas a psychopath is an NPC, non-player character, minus a soul. They're just playing the script that they were created to play. A sociopath is playing a script because of society teaching him to play that script. So, claiming a name, a hey, a sure, a hey, I will be what I will be, which is my identity. That's my identity. So, it's to have no image, not even to make an image of yourself. So we are the mirror image of our Ma'aba. So anyway, they believe in telling half-truths. And because of that, so Hasatan beguiles a fool. And you have to save yourself from the foolishness. But Hasatan will trick you. So I have these cards. Anybody that knows me knows well that I print these cards for those of you that want to look at it. So these are United States codes. These are codes. And in those codes, when you make false and misleading statements, you're removed from being protected by that bar association. So Satan is beguiling you, Baal. Has you believing because you're ignorant. You don't want to do any researching of your own and gain knowledge, wisdom, and discernment. So when you speak and you make any false or misleading statements, you're removed from that sovereign protection of the Bar Association. And that's Title 18 United States Code 1001-1002, false and misleading statements, collusion, coercion to commit fraud. It involves the RICO Act, racketeering, but ultimately violating your religious beliefs. So even if you're a Christian, you shouldn't be following that Gregorian calendar. If you're a Muslim, you shouldn't be following that Gregorian calendar. If you call yourself a Jew, you shouldn't be following that Gregorian calendar. You shouldn't be contracting with it. So there is no law that says you have to use that date. There's no law that says you have to use a social security number as identification or for identification purposes. So those are all called civil conspiracies, which is also on the list, civil conspiracies. So when men come together to conspire to racketeer from somebody. So if you're wondering about taxation and what law it is that says you have to pay taxes, there's none. Because you can't be directly taxed. Now, the products that you purchase can be taxed, which I'm okay with that to an extent. Let's not get greedy. But you can't be taxed, and you're not being taxed. What's being taxed is a Social Security trust account because you give 100% of your sweat equity to that trust account. That's why you don't use that. And you don't use postal addresses, RFD, like I've said before, rural free delivery. You live on the land, you don't live in a mailbox. That's created by the bankers. And what you know is the federal postal system, but nonetheless it's the bankers. So anyway, every judge is in violation of every one of these laws. Every man that wears a badge is in violation of every one of these laws. Everybody who works for any portion of the agency, whether it be federal, local, state, city, anybody that works for the Bar Association in any capacity that takes an oath to the Bar Association is guilty of every one of the transgressions of these laws, or these codes, your codes, because you took an oath. And in that oath, you violated every one of these. You violated the first two just by putting a uniform on. So that all caps name on your chest is called a nom de guerre. It's a war name like Rambo. That's not your given identity during this life. That's a false and misleading statement. So anyway, it does have to do with collusion or coercion to commit fraud and threats of violence. So you threaten people if they don't kowtow to you and don't use your system. And evidence of that is all the wars. Oh, well, they're not using our currency, so we're gonna do something to destroy their economy, and we're gonna do something to destroy their ability to live on the land. If you're not gonna let us suck all the profit from the resources of the land, then we're gonna do everything we can to the people of the land. So we're gonna cause murder and mayhem and harm innocent individuals because they don't want to contract with us. They don't want to allow us to rule the world. Those are the bankers, the creditors that you sold yourself to. So that's a message for today. Stop using that Gregorian calendar. Stop using the Time Zone Act. I tell you it's an act. It's not real. If it's an act, it's not real. God bless. Much love.